This is Xander Brand Podcasts.
Coming up on the Full Force Podcast.
I promised a response to the Drake Dragsaw situation. Maybe he has like 3 good ideas. Him and the entire Degeneracy Live crew, especially whenever they get to the episode about like serious stuff. It was so funny because when I popped up on an episode where they did like the election, they were all surprised. They were like, oh, he actually has solid things to bring to the table. And I was like, yeah. And it's funny because it was like the most serious podcast they did. He's going to get all upset in his feelings about it, but whatever. Things kind of got fractured at the end of the 24/7 stream and the GMM video that came out, which I'm gonna talk a little bit more about that. But talked about Aiden and Logan, and it was so funny because I was like, yeah, guys, I'm gonna have to drop my friends. A month later, Aiden texted me like, hey, let's hang out. And I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. I think that's gonna be more reserved towards some of my next projects. Through the JAS channels, and I say channels, obviously the subbot situation, I want to address that. One of the people I've already mentioned before said it well. They said, you are much happier whenever you are taking a break. The GMM video used a little bit of AI. Everybody that knows me knows I absolutely love and adore those guys, and I know their backstories like the back of my hand. It really hurt my feelings to be told that, like, you are just spouting off Wikipedia. I'm better than everybody. There was a lot of things that I had to work with and like in my inner self. So I kind of took what I asked myself in those questions and decided I'd work on some new videos with the JAS Tapes channel, which used to be just the regular JAS channel. It may not be till like next year before any of this comes out. That's kind of the tagline for the next project is something is coming. Something. I have to do something. And it has to be authentic. I'm trying to bring Xander Brand Equilibrium back. I think Aiden and Logan are on board. Zeke Dilligoff, as always, is on board. You're not going to get what we were doing before. All of the podcasts have been moved over to the Xander Brand podcast channel. They have their own clips channels. Like, all this stuff is exclusively the podcast stuff. So what's happening for Equilibrium? Now we're making this in person. I had my channel, I had Xander Brand, and I had Midpoint Americana, which we announced at some point was canceled. The TV project of Midpoint Americana has been canceled. There's some IP. I can do something with it, right? Some of the things that have changed about me have been chronicled and will come out within the rest of that new project thing. And it's authenticity because I've been chronicling things, vlogging things. Even back before the 24/7 live stream, like everything that led up to the 24/7 live stream was vlogged. So like for the past 2 months, I think I've been working, coming home, going to sleep, maybe spending like an hour max a week on content. Or anything else for that matter. I'm going to make out all these meals and get good whole ingredients. Since I have a car, I can go shop. I can go shop daily if I want to. So I've worked on that a little bit. I've been trying to figure out my personal style. Recently it's been like a black cap, a white shirt, and like some sort of like black pants, short, something like that. I need to be able to live life. I need to be able to vlog a little more. I have all of these videos that I've planned, and I've done a little bit of work on them, and I kind of got to figure out now what my plan with that is. This is wild getting back into this. I haven't done this in quite a while. Now I'm just playing with the audio and video, just seeing how everything turns out. But I think it's going to turn out just fine. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Full Force Podcast. We're doing this again after like forever being gone. We're going to work on how this looks. Because as of right now, you guys can see like the dirty bottoms of my socks from this angle, unless I edit it. So we're gonna have to work on that a little bit. Maybe I just like pull back a little. I don't know. That's the only other thing that I can do. So I wanted to get back to doing this because it's the new year. I've been meaning to record this for like a really long time, but it's the new year, so I figured why not go ahead and get started, even though it's probably at this point been like the new year for like probably about a month now at this point by the time this comes out. It's, as of recording, been almost 20 days into the new year. Nothing fun has happened because I've been sick. I've had something, maybe respiratory, maybe like lower, maybe lower than like upper respiratory stuff. But yeah, we are back at this. I guess I have my show notes here, digitally, which is wonderful. So I first have to get things out of the way and say I promised a response to the Drake Dragsaw situation. I'm saying his name. Somebody's going to clip this and like he's going to get all upset in his feelings about it, but whatever. I have decided, even though I wanted to address it for a while, after taking a hiatus or a hiatus, it seems a little less relevant to my life and everything going on. I think Drake Dragsaw is a very creative individual. I think he has a lot of solid ideas. Some of them, maybe he has like 3 out of 100 good ideas, better than my batting average of like 1 out of 100. But like 30% of his ideas are really good. He just has a lot of ideas too, so that definitely brings things into perspective. Him and the entire Degeneracy Live crew, they all, I have a special place in my heart for that show. I hate that I'm no longer ever asked to be on it, but whatever. Especially whenever they get to the episode about like serious stuff. It was so funny because when I popped up on the episodes, the episode where they did like the election, they were all surprised. They're all like, hold on, he actually has solid things to bring to the table. And I was like, yeah. And like, I have some takes. And it's funny because it was like the most serious podcast they did. And it was really fun. I really liked those serious podcasts. Now, there's some silly ones, obviously. The show follows the formula that's followed by a lot of other shows like The Drunken Peasants. So, there's going to be some good stuff and some bad stuff, but I really wanted to point out that I really have a special place in my heart for the Degeneracy Live crew because, I do. Whether it's Drake, Bronze, Daniel T. Gaming, he's on that show, SRV. There's some really awesome minds on that show and some really cool people. I know at least one of those names that I've said, things kind of got fractured at the end of me doing the 24/7 stream and the GMM video that came out, which I'm gonna talk a little bit more about that, but I think I have a pretty good relationship with those folks, and moving on, I would like to have a even more positive relationship with them, or obviously, I think towards the end of the 24/7 stream, I talked about Aiden and Logan, and it was so funny because I was like, yeah, guys, I'm gonna have to drop my friends. I was kind of joking with that video because like I think like a month later, Aiden texted me like, "Hey, let's hang out." And I was like, "Hell yeah, let's do it." So me and Aiden and Logan are good friends too, and I think I've talked about like with Xander Brand plans some of my ideas with them. But yeah, I think my relationship with a lot of those people are great, and I want it to get better going into this year. My return to content, which I'm sure they're going to talk about. I'm sure this podcast may get featured on Degeneracy Live, and if so, hey guys, how's it going? I'm glad you guys are here. Appreciate you guys. That's all I'm going to say about them for now, at least. More stuff may come up as I talk more. Yeah, so 24/7 stream I mentioned before. I'm going to discuss that more in some later content down the line. But I think that's going to be more reserved towards some of my next projects through the JAS channels. And I say channels like I'm giving you a hint. I think some of that's going to be discussed there a little bit more, and I think there's some content that I could do where I talk about the 24/7 stream some more. So I'm just going to talk about some of the final moments. Obviously, the subbot situation, I want to address that. I think I need to address the subbot situation. I did not subbot the JAS channel, which is now the JAS Tapes channel, at all. There was never any idea. Well, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say there was never any idea, but I never went through with that idea, like, ever, because the damage that it would do to my channel. Also because I knew people would be watching. I knew Drake Dragsaw would be watching. I knew Logan and Aiden would be watching. So I had to be careful. Like, I knew I couldn't subbot during the stream. So I don't know. I don't know why anybody would think I would do that, but like also on the same hand, it makes sense, right? Like, out of all the stupid shit I've done in the past. Yeah, like I totally understand that. And I addressed that during the stream where I talked a little bit more, and I was like, yeah, I kind of understand. And of course, everybody's being antagonistic. Oh, why do you understand, huh? Why do you think we would think this, huh? But ultimately, I was happy that happened because it gave me a perfect excuse to step away. And I think one of the people I've already mentioned before said it well. They said, you are much happier whenever you are taking a break. And I think that's somewhat the truth. And I think me and Aiden and Logan have talked about this a little bit, and they totally do not think I need to make any content ever again. And I love this too much. They know I love this too much. And Aiden has said, like, this doesn't love you back. But I think it could, and I think it might. It's all about what I'm making, right? Like, I've been wanting to make this podcast for so long, and my desire to make it good is because, like, I have this passion for this podcast and this episode in particular. I mean, even like sitting out making the new podcast logo, even making the new intro that you saw play, like, all of it is with passion. And I don't think that needs to be, I don't think I need to stop making content just because it doesn't love me back, because ultimately I think it could love me back, but I have to be doing the right thing and I have to be smart. But yeah, I didn't subbot. The GMM video used a little bit of AI. I think there were just some bits that were revised with AI, but I typed out the script on the 24/7 stream. And it really, really, really hurt my feelings to be like told like, oh, you just made AI slop, blah, blah, blah. And then somebody tried to say like, even if it wasn't AI, you wrote this video and like half the stuff just seems like you're reading Wikipedia pages. And this was like a retrospective about Rhett and Link. Everybody that knows me knows I absolutely love and adore those guys, and I know their backstories like the back of my hand. They obviously started out with a blood oath the first they met in elementary school in Miss Locklear's class. And then they made a blood oath, grew up, went to middle school together. They had a third friend, Ben, who ended up passing away. And due to chronic fatigue syndrome. And see, I'm spitting off these facts off the top of my head. And then Campus Crusade, college, back to Campus Crusade, where they made videos for the first time and like was doing it professionally. And then they went on to do the Online Nation show with CW. Then they went on to do GM Good Morning Chia Lincoln, then Commercial Kings, then back to Good Mythical Morning, then Mythical Show, then back to Good Mythical Morning again. I know their story. So it really hurt my feelings to be told that like you are just spouting off Wikipedia. Like it really, really, really hurt my feelings to hear that, because that was not true at all. And I think I've said before that some of the statements made about me absolutely were not true. And whether or not I could prove them wrong, I didn't want to. Because I was at the point where if you didn't value or believe what I had to say, there was no point in arguing it because it was a waste of my breath. The best thing to do was agree to disagree and move on. Didn't use AI for that video. I mean, I used AI in different aspects of what I was making, right? Because there was like the 365 intro. There was, which I used like 4 pictures, like 4 tiny little pictures that was inside of something. And, like, it was a bad call because, like, why not use stock footage or something like that? So I thought it was crucial for me to just move on. And I think going forward, like, that's going to be part of the thing, too, is just move on, keep being myself. Because I talked a lot about, like, authenticity and how important that's going to be to whatever I do in the future. And I think the best way to be myself is be myself. Somebody throws something my way, I can respond, but I don't need to put like my heart and soul into a response. I don't need to try to hire somebody to perfect this perfect PR response. I don't need to hire a legal team to sue or to put strikes on people. I don't need to do any of this. Like, which in the case of the legal team, I didn't hire them. But anyways, and also I put the strikes on the videos. The legal team themselves did not do that. Anyways, sorry, I was making a joke or a reference callback, and I was like, well, if I say this, somebody's gonna point out the legal team joke and how I just refused to take accountability. And I wasn't refusing to take accountability. I just, anyways. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of sums up all the stuff that happened before I left. And I'm back. So kind of like bridging that a little bit. There's a lot of things that I had to work with and like in my inner self be like, hey, how do I feel about this? How do I feel about my self-worth? Do I feel like I'm making stuff just to make stuff? Do I feel like I'm better than everybody? Am I better than everybody? I had to look through all the things that I've made. I had to think about the old days of the Just Talking podcast where I was 4 years old making a podcast. Oh, he's mentioning that again. Yeah. Like that was how I started. I wanted to be the next Ryan Seacrest. and it's important to my story. So fuck off. But I thought back to the Just Talking podcast. I thought back to some of my videos, Sunrise, the bit where I started doing Broken Xander for a while prior to Sunrise. I had to think about like my Visco Girl video that was out there for a while. The videos that I made kind of like in that time period. And some of those are now up on the Xander Brand vault because I had to look for them. I had to look for the videos of me being young, and actually, a matter of fact, I lost a lot of them and recently found some more of them. But I think it's important to remember that I had to think and like be introspective with myself. I had to ask myself a lot of questions. So I kind of took what I asked myself in those questions and decided I'd work on some new videos with the JAS Tapes channel, which used to be just the regular JAS channel. And I'm going to put it this way. The first video is, this first short film is like this, I believe it's about 10 minutes. No credits at the end. It's a 10-minute video, like me going back through the years and thinking about where I came from, what I've worked on. And I had to think about, obviously I had to use these clips. And obviously film some new stuff of me, you know, like watching the clips or of me, you know, experiencing things and reenacting the moment that I left. And there were moments where I laughed and cried watching these videos before I filmed or edited anything together, because I had to find the clips I was going to use. And it meant a lot to me that I could just go back in time and like see the passion, see what I wanted to do. You know, I wanted to be like my favorite YouTubers. I wanted to be like Ian and Anthony, Smosh. I wanted to be like Rhett and Link. I think at that time it was less Rhett and Link, more like Smosh, more things like that. And for me, like, it was really cool to go back and see that. So I decided I would use that in some of these questions that I asked myself to kind of ask a bunch of questions. And then I think the last question, and I'll just tell you guys, the last question I asked myself, which I'm not done filming any of these, so it may not be till like next year before any of this comes out. But the first question, or more, the first video that I did was less of a question and more of a, where did I start? Where am I at now? And then the last video is going to be, what do you do? Like, everything that's happened, what do you do? What's next? Because something has to be next. If I really still have that passion in me, I have to do something. You know, there has to be something next that I want to do. And if it's something I want to do, is it something I want to put all my energy into? Is it something, I don't know. It's got to be something. So that's kind of the tagline for the next project, is something is coming. Something. I have to do something. And it has to be authentic. So do something, be authentic. Do something authentic. It's kind of, I'm playing with those as a catchphrase, but something is coming. Something is coming. And so, like I said, the JAS tapes, the new tapes that are going to come out, are going to be tying into that. I've talked before about how I'm trying to bring Xander Brand equilibrium back. I think Aiden and Logan are on board. Zeke Dilligaff, as always, is on board. And for anybody who doesn't know, Zeke Dilligaff is someone who joined me on my first project the later version of my first project. So I created this thing called Zanzana Radio, later became the Just Talking podcast. I did that through elementary school, probably through like the 4th grade, and then I took like a year off, and then I brought it back, and I brought it back with other people being on it. And somewhere along the way of that like later iteration, Zeke Dilligaff came along. It was produced by Digital Lake Media, which later became Xander Brand Vault, as some of you know. So we took that, and he's been along for the ride ever since. He's been fired. He's been promoted. He's been moved to other things. Zeke Dilligaff is a trooper. I love Zeke Dilligaff. So I think he's along for the ride. But I will say, what you're not gonna get is you're not gonna get what we were doing before with Xander Brand. You're not going to get these podcasts. That's why all of the podcasts have been moved over, including this one. All of the podcasts have been moved over to the Xander Brand podcast channel. They have their own clips channels. Like, all this stuff is exclusively the podcast stuff. So what's happening for Equilibrium, you'll have to wait and see, but I think it's going to be really interesting. And I think what I'm looking at right now is we may start off in like the formats that we did before where we filmed remotely, but I'm thinking that the new formats will be A, a lot different, and B, the potential to film in person will also be there. And I think a lot of that's just going to be like a strategy of we get these shows and these formats that people love, and then we say, hey, you're going to keep watching this. So now we get ad revenue. Now we get Patreon maybe members. And, boom, now we're making this in person. And I think that's a potential as well. Obviously, like, there are complications to that. Zeke Dilligaff lives a state away from everybody, which means it's not impossible, but he would have to have the time. It would have to make sense for us. So it would also be like, from there, what could he do? And I think the rest of the people that I think we're going to try to bring in and cast for Xander Brand Equilibrium are going to be people who live somewhat locally or can travel to like a central North Carolina location, and we can all shoot a show. So I think that'll be really cool. And then comes the third thing that I was working on, right? So I had my channel, I had Xander Brand, and I had Midpoint Americana, which we announced at some point was canceled. The TV project of Midpoint Americana has been canceled with only one L, not with two L's. But yeah, so we canceled it. But only as a TV show project. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I think there is some creative there. There's some IP. I can do something with it, right? So, I'm thinking right now it could be novel. It could be something like a novel. I would like to do something. I don't want to say. I have this vision in my head. There's actually a novel that I read whenever I was younger. I would like to do something like them where they have like different levels of like, they have a version that young readers can read, and then like middle school aged, and then high school aged can read, and then adults can read. I would like that. That would be really cool. But I'm thinking it's going to be novel or novel adjacent. Just because like that's a medium I can actually do, that's something that I know is feasible and is something that I'd be interested in doing. Um, yeah, so that's kind of like, that's me coming back, me assessing where all of my stuff is at, right? So the next thing, something, there's the JAS Tapes channel, there's something coming, Xander Brand podcasts and Xander Brand Equilibrium, and then there's Midpoint Americana. So it's kind of like where do those stand going forward? And even like the Midpoint thing is something that creatively has just been in the back of my mind. I'm like, well, I could do something with it. And even like planning out this podcast, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about Midpoint. Well, how am I going to touch on that? And I was like, well, I can include that in the I'm coming back section, but I have to be honest, and I don't know what it's going to look like if it does happen. There's a lot of ideas. There's a lot of things that I can do. But there's also a lot of things about me that have changed, right? So, and some of the things that have changed about me have been chronicled, and will come out within the rest of that new project thing. And it's authenticity because I've been chronicling things, vlogging things, even back before the 24/7 live stream, like everything that led up to the 24/7 live stream was vlogged. So it's a matter of figuring out how it fits with the new project. But I think it's going to be really cool to see my progress in a lot of things, because like now I have a car, which before like I didn't. So like the 24/7 stream was bland because I didn't really go many places. I also like go to the gym now sometimes, which is really fun. I'm even not as frequently as I want to, but I'm even like weighing in myself. I got this really cool scale. And I step on it, it gives me my body fat percentages. I'm actually a lot lower than I thought I was. I thought I was at like 30-40% body fat, but I'm at like 25%. So that's really good. I think I've lost about like 15 pounds since I quit YouTube. I had some changes with my job, which have been positive and negative at the same time, because it's been a lot more stressful. Change of hours, new responsibility. And for me, like a lot of that new stress and all of that stuff has led me to go on to not do a lot of other things. So like for the past 2 months, I think I've been working, coming home, going to sleep, maybe spending like an hour max a week on content, or anything else for that matter. So it's been eating, which I've not been doing very healthily, because it's been a lot of like going to somewhere before work during my lunch breaks and picking up something at the grocery store, as opposed to whenever I started, it was like, I'm going to meal prep. I'm going to make out all these meals and get good whole ingredients. Since I don't have a car, I can go shop. I can go shop daily if I want to. So I've worked on that a little bit. And it's been challenging, but I think that's something that's definitely changed about me. And like I said, a lot of the stuff has been chronicled, and there's also been some gaps in times in the chronicles. Because, like I said, when you don't do something for a day, it's like, oh, well, there's nothing to film. Or if I'm like, oh, shit, I forgot to film. Like I just did this thing and I didn't film any bit of it. Or like I was in a public space, there are people that probably didn't want me to film, couldn't film. So that's something that I have to figure out, right? My personal style right now, I'm not dressed in anything that I would usually be wearing. This was kind of me just grabbing something to lounge in. But like that's something else that I've been trying to do. I've been trying to figure out my personal style. Recently it's been like a black cap, a white shirt, and like some sort of like black pants, short, something like that. And that's something that's been has been going on for a minute. I went to the dentist at the end of kind of like in the September area last year. Got a couple teeth worked on. But it's also really expensive. Within like 2.5 months, I expended all of my like insurance budget on just getting a couple teeth worked on. So that was something else that I did, which I was going to chronicle that, but it's also really hard to chronicle that, be like, oh, going to the dentist. Hey, I just got out of the dentist. Like it's something that like over the years I would have to do and like do progress stuff. And it was definitely an idea, but sometimes it's just really hard to execute on those ideas, right? You're trying to live a life and the goals would be authentic. So I'm trying to live life. I don't have like enough of a following where I can go to like these people, or like I don't live in a major city to where like me just pulling out a camera would be like a big deal, or would be like a normal occurrence. So for me, it's always been a matter of ease, like I can't just pull out my camera and film sometimes. So that makes the execution a little bit more difficult, honestly. Another thing that's been helping me a little bit is this thing right here. It's the Remarkable tablet. It is an e-ink reader. It's a lot like a tablet, slash an e-reader. It can take PDFs. You can actually write in it and all of that fun stuff. But it's helped me a little bit because it's helped me with journaling, physically writing in any ideas, really, brainstorming. It's also allowed me to download a couple books and read them. And that's been fun too, just like working on all of these things that have definitely changed. And looking at myself down the line, it's like, wow, I've really moved on, like, in life. I think the car thing is not a big deal to a lot of people, but getting a car was something that I thought was going to be incredibly difficult, and I got it within like a month and a half of stopping everything, right? And so for me, it was just getting a loan, getting a car, and obviously not a favorable loan or anything, but it was a loan where I could get a car. And I've never liked talking about money. So whenever I was working on that, I filmed a little bit of me like crunching numbers and everything. And I don't think I've done enough of that, really. And that's why I'm also saying like some of this stuff may take like a year to get out. This new project launch, maybe a year. Some of these tapes, maybe a year before they get out. And the reason why I say that, because this was all originally supposed to launch in like February of this year and go, like, these tapes are supposed to launch in February, and this new project was tentatively scheduled to start my birthday week. And so now it's also like, when are we going to do that? When is that going to happen? Because there's so much more that still has to be done. But I need to be able to film when I'm ready. I need to be able to live life. I need to be able to vlog a little more. I need to not spend basically half of my time in the past 2 months sleeping, and stressing. I need to be happy. And so that's what I've been working on a lot, actually. And it feels wild. It's been almost a whole year since I stopped making content. I did do a couple of JAS Live stuff, and I tried to kind of relaunch the JAS Live brand. I was also originally intending on starting that in October, but I was doing some screen tests, and I was just like, hey, why don't I go ahead and just live stream a couple episodes? And I think there's some things to note from those. And I think it was somewhat around that time where I was also getting into those bad habits of going home being like, all right, I'm ready to go to bed. So I stopped doing the live streams, which, again, they weren't supposed to be like super consistent or anything. And those kind of came after I started following another live streaming network that does a 24-hour circuit. And I was like, hey, I was going to try out with them and everything. And I was like, why don't I just go back to doing my own thing? The JAS Live channel is there. It's where we did the 24/7 streams. So we've had some other streams, I think, that have archived over there. And so it was just a matter of getting everything together. And the follow-through was not there just because it was not intended to be a permanent thing. But that is also something else that I did. I think there's a lot to work on, like with happiness, right? But I think there's a lot more progress than I would like to give myself credit for. But I have all of these videos that I've planned, and I've done a little bit of work on them. And I kind of got to figure out now what my plan with that is, right? So what I'm figuring out now is I probably need to work on them, get them ready to go, give myself like a 15-day buffer. If I don't like a video, it doesn't go out. Like I have everything produced and ready to go within 15 days. If I go back and watch that, like any time within those 15 days, and I'm like, no, then it doesn't come out and it doesn't see the light of day. Maybe it's shelved and turned into something else. Maybe it's just completely shelved in all. But I need to work on those and to get them ready to go out. And then I need to dip and take another break. And you may laugh at that, but I think absence makes the heart grow fonder. And I think that's something that that definitely applies for me, right? And then I go back to what I said at the beginning about how my friends have mentioned that, hey, you do a little bit better whenever you stop. Like, you do. And I think you can kind of see that because you can look at all the times that I've stopped and came back, and you can look at, like, all of the stuff that's went into the videos that, like, start the next cycle, and then it just drops, right? So I definitely think that that's something to consider, you know. And there's not always going to be passion in what I make, right? The writing may not be something I'm very passionate about. The production may not be something that I'm very passionate about. Obviously, post-production is something I'm always happy to dig my fingers into. But sometimes it can also be challenging and discouraging. Most people know that. And that's why I said, like, I need to have a long window of time to work on something, and I need to have a long window where I sit on that thing and I'm like, maybe we don't. Or yeah, we absolutely do put it out. You know, those are things that I'm willing to consider. But definitely like authenticity within those videos, right? No AI. Right? I'm not saying none at all, right? I could go and if I've learned how to train my own language learning model with the content that I'm making, yeah, then maybe at that point, right? But also then again, like, don't rely on it. one thing I'm really starting to hate, and that I see a lot of, is just people over-relying on AI. And I see why people thought that was the case for me, and it was to a degree, especially with writing. Writing was definitely something where I was like, hey, writing is something where I was like, hey, Claude or ChatGPT or Grok, which I don't think existed during a large majority of my time whenever I was using AI, but it was like, I need an outline for this thing. Here's all of my jumbled ideas, and then it also like took that from me. Like I didn't have, the machine wasn't oiled where I was being creative, right? So I've always loved writing. Maybe not like the research part, maybe not like the video writing necessarily, right? Like I've always been a big creative writer, but I've not always been like a big pre-production guy or a production guy. I've always been like the post-production guy. Editing has always been something I've loved to do. But yeah, like I think there's an aspect there where I need to figure out, as of right now, no AI. I'm not saying down the line there can't be ethical uses. And I've argued before, there are ethical uses of AI. No, you shouldn't use it in a courtroom. Yes, you should use it in a doctor's office when you're like looking at details and determining cancer cells. That's something it's been great for. To predictive text, data analysis, things that are like painstaking work that isn't creative, right? So that's really the big like AI thing, my stance on that at least. But I really think the important thing for me is that I'm experimenting, trying new things, and having fun, right? Like, and whenever I find something that works, if it's something that I continue to have fun with, I need to edit here. All right, we're back to filming. I also think that having fun is just going to be something that's going to make me happy and make me want to put a lot of passion into things, right? Xander Brand Digital, there is a lot of stuff to do there as far as coming up with more ideas. Let's see, where's my notes at? There we go. I got off track on my notes. I think the big thing is going to be like, I'm going to need to come up with some more ideas, which I have some down. We're going to need to film them and work on them. I'm going to have to cast people. I'm going to have to be like a talent relations guy. We may not be out in the public until 2027 or even 2028, but I think there's a lot to do there, right? And obviously this is the first step for Xander Brand Digital coming back, because this is a Xander Brand podcast. We stopped, I think the last 2 episodes we filmed were just kind of like under my own banner. But these are Xander Brand productions again. So it's a matter of this is the first step, right? It is podcasting. Because it's something that's low lift, that's something I can be passionate about and put a lot of effort into. And it's something where I have a strategy, and I think the strategy can work. Me, Logan, and Aiden filmed a podcast that may or may not see the light of day because we just didn't like it. It may turn into, which we filmed, actually we filmed 3 episodes of a podcast that just didn't see the light of day. And so I think there's an opportunity to do something with them for a podcast. Me and my brother have always talked about doing a podcast. Me and my sister have always talked about doing a podcast. Me and my brother-in-law, who is a Xander Brand music group member, we've talked about doing a podcast. So there's definitely some stuff there. This is just a first start. And I think there's a lot of opportunity, like I said, within Equilibrium, to make something there and make personalities that people love. The dropout or Smosh model, where it's like, all right, we're a bunch of people that are just going to hop on a video and do this show, do this format, and now you're falling in love with the people. And then, there's this other format we want to try. Well, you like the people. Let's see which people thrive in this new format. Oh, I love those people. I like this format. Oh, there's some more new people, and I like them. I like this format. And now here's another format. And then it just grows. And then you take that one channel and you spin it in other verticals, right? You follow the same model. You take, these five personalities that you love from the Equilibrium channel, they actually also like playing video games. So why don't we move them into a video game environment? Well, we have a Xander Brand Games channel. Let's put them there. Let's see how they thrive there. Wow, I like these formats. I like these games. These personalities are really cool. Now here's some more personalities. And then they can spin off into other stuff down the line as well. I need to pause. All right, now we're back at it. And then you take the games channel and these personalities that you like on the games channel, and you put them into another vertical, or at least some of them. And then, that's how you make, a whole franchise of stuff. That's how then you take that and you spin that off for merch that people will like. You make crossover stuff between the channels, between the formats. You find existing creators that people like, and you create this network. It's doable, and there's a strategy. But the first step is, let's make some shows. Let's hope that you fall in love with some personalities, not me. I think there's opportunity for me to grow into a cooler personality that people like, but I don't think that's going to be through Xander Brand. I think that's going to be through the JAS channels, maybe a little bit through the Xander Brand channels, because I'm going to be there and I'm going to be in stuff every now and then. But I would also like to take a behind-the-scenes role a little bit more. I would like to be doing post-production a lot more. I would like to be doing production, learning some more things for production. Maybe we hire some people that have experience, and then, they teach me some stuff. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. And I think I could spin that off into things from my channel that I'm like, I've learned this. I can do this thing, and I can do that thing. I think there's wonderful opportunity as long as I can follow the strategy and then adapt. Adapting is another big thing, right? I have to be able to adapt to changes. So that's something else that I'm going to have to, I have this strategy, I have this plan. We're going to change and adapt that strategy. We're going to do, we're supposed to do this vertical, this format next, but man, these people really like this thing. These fans really like this thing. Well, let's try this different vertical next instead. And then it's like, well, this thing now just needs to not happen. there's opportunity, and it's, as long as I can follow a strategy and be willing to adapt, I think there's a lot of potential. And I've talked to Aiden and Logan about this because they're part of this plan for at least this first vertical with the second vertical with both the first and second, because podcasting and Equilibrium, I think there's opportunities there for them. And there's a lot of things they don't agree on me with all of this. They're like, well, maybe let's not do this. Like, they've told me, they've been like, hey, I don't think you need to make content. And like, I disagree very strongly. But yeah, it's just a matter of all of that. And then there's like personal opportunity within that, right? Like, Logan has his own thing that he's doing that used to be part of our thing, but we handed back over to him. I could do stuff with him on there, him and Aiden on there, and I think that's an opportunity for me personally as well. But it may not be, like I said, till later next year, the following year, that you even see anything from Equilibrium or any of these other formats besides this podcast or other podcasts. And it may take a longer time to get some of the verticals going. Like I said, this is the first podcast. I have all these other ideas, and I've wanted to make them happen, but they haven't because of other circumstances. So, all that considered, that's important. And then there's also like physical health. I talked about the dentist earlier. Mental health. Like, they're all important things that I need to do as well. Outside of just making content, there's this whole world out there too that would be perfect, they're all and just as more important, arguably, than anything content wise. The financials, like, if I can't make my own life work, how am I going to make a budget for a Xander Brand corporation work? Like, being debt free, that's a big goal of mine in the next 6 years. I don't think I'm going to pay off that car debt anytime soon. But, I think those are really cool. There's also a lot of like bigger projects that live in my head. There's this like ancestry / nostalgia show that I had in mind, which I think I'm probably going to scrap. There is, and I could turn those into like podcast episodes now because like I have so many ideas. And so, or like a podcast mini-series or something. There's also a cooking show. You're going to laugh, but there's a cooking show I want to do. And I have like this very particular format I'd like to do, heavily inspired by Susie Vidal, and some of the other stuff out there as well, obviously. But there's ideas, and I think these large-scale ideas I can do stuff with. I just need to kind of work them out, and make them happen. And I think once all of these tapes for the JAS Tapes channel are done, all of these short films that I've been working on, planning out, I think once I've put them out there and once like everything's creatively done, I think the channel's done for a long time. And then it's also like, when it does come back, what are we doing? Are we going back to some of the older stuff that we made and like trying to perfect that? Are we trying to go on to make new things? Are we making limited series again? Are we doing more weeks of content, if you get my drift? That last one is definitely a no. Like, I do not think, never say never, but I do not think there will be 52 more weeks I don't think that's going to happen. There's a reason we have scrubbed 52 weeks from the internet. And I think that's the way it's going to stay. Never say never, but I believe that's probably the way it's going to stay. I don't have any active plans to make it happen. I've seriously sat down and been like, well, I should redo and like just totally like do what I originally wanted to do with this. And I'm like, I don't have the means to do what I originally wanted to do with this. So sorry if you liked the adventures of a year with me. But it's just, those are not going to happen. I mean, the other thing I need to do is just being more consistent, right? Like I talked about going to the gym. I need to go to the gym more often. I need to be like really grinding iron. That would make me laugh. Getting into my routines that I've been trying so hard to get into. Like just putting more effort into stuff, doing my weigh-ins on my scale more often, doing good eating habits so I can drop that body fat percentage and hopefully weight overall. Like my goal one day is to be at 10% body fat, 9% body fat. And like, I don't know, 140 pounds. I'm like 185 now. So like, could I do that? I don't know. We would have to see. But if I was more consistent, it would be more likely. It's just making a plan, sticking to the plan, and consistently sticking to the plan. And then the other thing is like being authentic. Like I said before, like even with the new channel, beyond that, just being myself and being happy to be myself. And that goes back to mental health, of course. But that's something that I've got to work on. I need to find more hobbies as well, like find more things to keep me happy and be consistent doing those hobbies and finding more hobbies and more things to consume as well, right? Like I know people will make jokes of like, well, these are like the 5 things you consume. You spend the rest of your time making stuff or doing nothing of value. Really, as of late, it's really been more of the doing nothing of value, but like people will talk about all of these things. And I think the big thing for me is hobbies and more things to consume, right? So maybe those hobbies lead to more things to produce. Maybe the things I consume leads to more things that I produce. But I just need to be more like myself, find things that I'm happy with, and be happy and authentic and live a life that I'm proud to live. Because, like, in the past, I've lived a life that I'm not proud to live. And I'm riffing because I don't have any notes now, but, like, this is genuinely how I feel about that. Is I think there needs to be a pride in the life that I live. And maybe I don't make anything else but this podcast. This podcast that everybody knows and loves. This podcast that now has a microphone in front of my face that I do not have to touch and manipulate. Well, except for before I record the podcast. Yeah. So, this podcast that everybody knows and loves, the Full Force Podcast. I like that. Well, you guys know, I hope, where you can find us on social media, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, which I'm still calling it that. Fuck you, Elon. Facebook, Instagram, all of those lovely places. Full Force JAS. Stay up to date as we provide you with more content very slowly. You know where to find us on YouTube, the Xander Brand Podcast's YouTube channel, and once again, the Full Force Podcast YouTube channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. I can't promise I'll be back in a week, But I promise that eventually, even if it is 2 years later, even if this podcast doesn't make it to air, like the second to last one that I filmed, we will eventually be back. Ladies and gentlemen, we are so back. The Full Force Podcast. Woo! We are done with episode number 1 of season 3, we're calling it. Sure, why not? Do I look like I give a fuck? Thank you guys so much. I will talk to you guys later. Oh, and you can follow my personal socials, JosephAS03. And maybe on there you will see something, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, coming your way in the next year and a half. Oh my gosh. Stay tuned for updates. You can also find the stuff for the Tapes channel there whenever they come out. Thank you guys. Oh, and Xander Brand, of course. Xbrand Digital on all social platforms. Thank you guys so much. I will talk to you guys later. I think that's